everybody. Welcome back to Survival Prepping for Normal People. I made a post earlier today. A lot of you've seen it. It's gotten a lot of comments. For my amusement, and OC and Alpha Phalanx and everybody else out there that's commented on that post today, I got to tell you, I have had a lot of fun with it. A lot of fun. Psychology is interesting to me. People are interesting to me. And I noticed some people had been posting stuff about this Myers-Briggs type identification or identification test to figure out what type of person you are. And they break it down into about 16 different categories. And I'd done personality tests over the years and other things, IQ tests, all this kind of crap. The soft sciences, like psychology, I find them interesting because something as complex as human behavior is very hard to quantify, to make a formula and make a predictive outcome based on the information you have about somebody. So it's not an easy thing to do. And most of the stuff these people do is based on studies that were initially taken up by Jung, who was a famous psychiatrist / psychologist, worked closely with Sigmund Freud of the same era, when psychology and psychiatry was really in its genesis. The study of people and what makes them tick. It's a very interesting thing. So I took the test and it said I'm an ENFJ-A, which basically means I am a problem solver and a facilitator, a person who likes to teach and help others. I found that to be very interesting, and it describes other personality traits and tendencies, and it was pretty accurate. I mean, like I said, I've taken a lot of these things over the years, and most of the time it's kind of like just like a joke. I did one, anybody remember, was it Monster or Dice or Ladders? It was one of those job placement companies before we had LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff, and you could put your resume on there, and you could apply for managerial type jobs and things like that, accounting jobs and other stuff. Basically jobs where you'd be in a leadership position, a person with a lot of responsibility. And they had a personality test on there. Now, at the time, I didn't realize it was a joke, okay? It was something that they did, and I think they were gauging your response. Anyway, I go through this thing. It had like 120 questions on it. And so I'm seriously thinking about these questions and typing in my answers and all this. And I get to the end, and it says, the job you are most qualified for. And what it spit out in my particular case, it said I'd be most qualified to be a post-apocalyptic warlord or a James Bond supervillain. And obviously I got a laugh out of that. I don't think they were really that far off, really, in that joke test that they did. They ended up taking it down because it offended a lot of people. I guess. I don't know. Because I don't know what the other answers were that they spit out to people, what you'd be best qualified for. But anyway, people interest me, and there's a reason. You are the key. People are the key in any situation. They are the only thing that really matters in the end. When you are born, generally, in the United States anyway, there might be 4 or 5, maybe less than 10 people at the hospital to greet you when you come into this world. Do you know how many people are there when you leave? Generally, 10 or less. So let that sink in and ruminate on that for just a minute. Those would be the 10 most important people in your circle, your sphere of influence, your orbit, your micro society. The people that know you the best and care about you the most. People are key because our legacy, our memory, what we did and what we didn't do lives on in our children, grandchildren, the heirs and the progeny of those we knew best and affected the most. So people are important. And it's true, I've always been a bit of a facilitator. I like to see other people do well. Now, in a leadership position, that can benefit you greatly. Because if other people do well under your leadership, then you can pretty much write your own ticket. If you can facilitate and bring out the best in people. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to be stern sometimes. Sometimes you absolutely do, as a leader that's called for, because you're going to run into people who lack discipline, who lack self-motivation, and through whatever means, whether it's nepotism, by accident. I mean, General George Armstrong Custer became a general. They demoted him back to a colonel, but he became a general. He wasn't necessarily qualified for the position, so it does happen, even in the most well-run organizations. And as a former soldier, I can tell you, for all of the problems the Army and in general the military has, it's pretty well run because there are rules that everybody has to go by. Everybody has to adhere to, and no one is necessarily special. It's not about the individual. It's about the team. It's about the collective. It's about accomplishing the mission, and everybody has to play their role. And they have to do their utmost. And if you refuse to do your job, they call the MPs and you go to jail. Doesn't work that way in the civilian world. So what you're left with as a final recourse as a manager in this modern world is you simply let people go. You fire them because they are more of a liability than an asset. Now, I would spend time coaching these people, trying to help these people, trying to help facilitate what it was that they needed to do by removing obstacles, sometimes placed in the way by themselves and sometimes placed in their way by others. But as a good manager, you do that. You look out there on the field and you decide where your resources need to be marshaled, what's important, what should be prioritized, and what you can do to help people overcome themselves. Now, I'd be in lots of meetings where people could tell me 10 reasons why they couldn't do something, and I would listen. I'm what they call an active listener. I'm actually paying attention to what you're saying, and I'm processing it before I open my mouth and answer. It's a good trait to have in a leadership position. Now, they would give me 10 reasons, or you could call them excuses, whatever. It's interchangeable terms, why they couldn't get something done. And I would listen very intently because I'm trying to solve these problems for them as they're spitting them out to me. And maybe there's something obvious or not so obvious that they hadn't thought of. And it's my job to help them out. And then when they finish their diatribe of excuses, their litany of reasons why they couldn't do something, I would say, okay, you just told me 10, as you consider them, valid reasons why you can't do something. Tell me 3 ways you can. This would often leave other leaders who are leaders of people in their craft or their division or whatever at a loss for words. Because people tend to focus on all the reasons they can't do something and spend so much energy on all the reasons they can't do something and stare so long at the obstacles that they fail to see a way around it. They put very little energy into overcoming that. Now, people who are self-starters, highly motivated, the go-getters, there are very few of them. And it's a proven fact that about 20% of any group of people in any organization are the ones who carry 90% of the load. The rest of the people are either in their way, handing them things they need, criticizing what's going on, or just waiting to get on the bus because they got fired today. But 20% in any given organization of human beings anywhere in the world are the ones who really, truly get things done. The rest are there to fill holes or make holes in the payroll, so to speak. So can you be a leader and be fair and be stern at the same time? Absolutely. It's all about consistency. Consistency in how you maintain discipline. Treat everybody the same. But people are the key in every situation. Are you a motivator? Are you an intimidator? Are you an organizer? Are you the kind of person that is a criticizer? It's important because as a prepper, when this whole shit show comes crashing down and the clowns are running out of the burning circus tent, guess what? You are probably the most knowledgeable and well-prepared person in your general area or vicinity. If people come to you who you care about, they may be those 10 people that are at the hospital in the beginning or the end, or people that are related to them, or people in your orbit, your sphere of influence. They will come to you sooner or later. And people you don't know. You are going to need help. Manual labor, getting things done in a post-apocalyptic environment, is going to take a lot of work. So if you have a small group of 10 and only 20% of the people are getting the job done, that means there's 2 of them that are pulling 90% of the load. Now, I learned very early on in my construction career, but I've had many, many careers. Like I said, a soldier, police officer, truck driver, business owner, construction, you name it. I am a one-man village people because I happen to be half Native American as well. YMCA? Anyone? Anyhow, yeah, I could actually wear all the costumes. No homo though, so no, let's not even go there. But hey, that's neither here nor there. If that's you, then hey, you do you, and I'll stick with what I prefer. But anyhow, psychology is important because as a leader, you need to know how people work. But more importantly, as a leader, you need to know how you work. And you, like I said in my post, you are the bedrock of your entire existence. See, that's the tragedy when you lose someone. When you lose an individual, you lose an entire world, their world. There may be 8 billion people on the planet, but there are 8 billion different worlds interacting because we all have our own unique perspective, outlook, and input in this thing we call life. Now, I've read lots of books about leadership. I've had lots of training about leadership. I used to train people in leadership because some people are intuitive leaders, and I was always that kind of person. I'm not bragging. I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's neither here nor there. Some people are natural leaders. Some people aren't. Some people can learn to be leaders through trial and error. Some people can be mentored by good leaders, okay? But people with my personality type tend to be in a leadership position because I'm the kind of person that everybody can pivot around and ask questions, because my personality type tends to be a knowledgeable personality type because we're curious about lots of different things. And we can generally apply our knowledge in a practical way. And we like to see other people succeed. So we say, here, I know you've been trying to do it this way. Try it this way today. See how it works out for you. Come back and let me know. You don't have to be a dick about it. Okay. And then, of course, you have that old bumper sticker, you can't fix stupid. No, you cannot fix stupid. But as a manager, I learned a very important lesson. You can fire stupid and make it somebody else's problem. Done. I like solutions. I like answers. But I like solving puzzles and problems. I like mysteries. And the largest mystery I've ever encountered in my life are other people. But you see, that's where we have an advantage. We are a people. We have all the same needs, fears, wants, desires, dislikes that everybody else has, just to a different degree or another, because we all experience this world in the same way. We see it, we touch it, we taste it, we hear it, we feel it. We're really not that different in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways we are 8 billion unique individuals. Some people take this to the extreme, and they get the label as a snowflake. Generally, men are interested in things. Generally, women are interested in people. I read somewhere that men who are interested in people can be dangerous things. Because all great leaders throughout history have one singular character trait in common. Whether that be Genghis Khan, the Dalai Lama, Martin Luther King, Hannibal Barca, Julius Caesar, Abraham Lincoln, you name it. They all shared one singular character trait. All of their backgrounds may have been different. They may have spoken different languages. They come from different cultures, but they all understood one thing. That no man can do it all. And everybody needs help. And if you're going to have help, you might as well get the best out of your help. And there are lots of ways to do it. So I find psychology interesting, and I think that the most important thing you can do to prepare for any situation, be it life, SHTF, a marriage, a new job, going to school, whatever it is, understand who you are before you start questioning who other people are. Because if you have no baseline from which to judge other people's actions, how can you judge their actions? Don't live in a glass house. Very important lesson to learn, right? But I digress. I was talking about reading books about leadership, and you know what? Leadership really boils down to one word: influence. How able are you to influence what other people do? Hopefully to guide them in the direction of accomplishing a goal, which is mutually beneficial to everyone. You have to have buy-in, especially in America. If people don't understand how it benefits them, they've already checked out. You've already lost their attention. It's hard to lead people who don't pay attention. So you need to understand how it benefits everybody. You need to be able to communicate that. Okay? And something I learned in the military is to inspect what you expect. If you tell somebody to go do something and that's all you do, and you don't close that loop by going and making sure they did it, wheels are going to fall off real quick. Now, I was never a micromanager. I didn't care how you did something as long as the goal was achieved. And people stayed safe and you didn't cost me $1 bajillion doing it. And if you got stumped, it's okay to raise your hand and ask a question. There are no stupid questions. There are only stupid people. Okay, so let's all remember that and write that down on a notepad. So if leadership boils down to influence, let's look at this from a political a political science point of view, where war is just policy by other means. You want people to do things the way you want to politically, and if they don't agree, you go to war with them and you force them to, right? So if war is policy by other means, could manipulation be leadership by other means? Manipulation doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's got a bad connotation. But sometimes you can move the chess pieces around and it benefits everybody involved. It's important to know how to do that, and that requires a modicum of understanding of human psychology. Now, I had a lot of fun with that post today, and reading your comments was awesome. And why is that? Because I'm interested in people. I have a lot of intelligent supporters here on Patreon. I had a lot of intelligent supporters on YouTube, and you guys are the cream of the crop. You're the ones who came over here and paid for this information, and I appreciate your support. But I'm going to leave you with this. Psychology is important, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Experience matters, knowledge matters, intelligence matters, and wisdom matters, and it's all intertwined. And it's one big hammer, and it's all how you wield it. A hammer can be used to bash in a skull. A hammer can be used to carve Michelangelo's David also. Remember that. Unfortunately, when you become a hammer, the world all starts to look like a lot of nails. Hit those nails selectively, constructively. Personal story. A bunch of people at my job one time, after a meeting, they were watching me conduct what I did and how I said things and how I ran the meeting. About 3 or 4 of them. They stayed after, and one of them, who was a psychological guru, was actually a site trainer, safety guy, said, you're passive-aggressive in a lot of ways. And I was like, really? You think so? I said, yeah, you got some passive-aggressive tendencies the way you were talking to these people. I said, oh, okay, and it made me mad. It did. Because that's a negative trait, right? So I just smiled, and I didn't really get upset. Eventually, I got around, over time, to firing every one of those bastards. I did. Call me passive-aggressive? Ain't having it.